Wir haben den 14. Mai und wir haben 20:30 Uhr und wir haben Return to Bender, unser Livestream hier aus dem Benderhof und heute mit einem echten musikalischen Schwergewicht. Wir haben ganz lange drauf gewartet und wir freuen uns riesig, heute einen alten Bekannten der Stadt da zu haben und er sitzt in den Startlöchern. Wir haben ganz viele Fans da draußen und ich will euch gar nicht lange auf die Folter spannen. Please welcome Mr. Lee Hollis.
Hi. Shit. Okay. Are we live? We are live. Hello. We are live. I have several things that I'd like to say before I actually start reading, and that might take a while. But first, two people have birthdays. One man is Ralph Menegatti. He's from Kaiserslautern, and he was here when I first came to Germany. Ralph, hardcore motherfucker. And the second one is Alex Cook, and he's a younger, much younger friend of mine. We worked together in Karate Klub, where I bartend, and it's also his birthday. Ralph, I just wanted to say, if you do this 25 more times, also, if you have a birthday, then eventually you will understand my pain. So that was that. And the other two things, is that my mother is watching. If she didn't lie to me. Now Mom always told me, Lee, you just be yourself and you'll be fine. Mom, I'm myself. Look at me. I love you. And the final thing before I actually start is, because this is such an obscure situation, everything is new. By the way, it's the first time my mother has ever seen me do this, and I want to excuse myself for the cursing. And it's also the first time that I'm going to be accepting questions if anyone has questions. I don't promise to answer every question, but feel free to ask if you'd like.
If you dare.
Yeah. I ain't gonna answer. No questions. Let me be clear. This isn't the first time that I've sat more or less alone in a bar and talked to myself. But it is the first time alone in a bar in front of two cameras, talking to people that I cannot see, who may or may not be listening, and that after spending 2 months basically alone with my poisonous thoughts. So this is unknown territory for me. And if I lose my shit, like in 5 minutes or in a half hour, then you know why. What I am doing right now, right here, is a perversion of nature. Now, we as humanity, we have been asked to change basically everything, well, not everything, but the important things about our lives. Contact with people, whether it's the love of your life or that fucker you're gonna kill the next time you see him, is as basic as breathing. Now, I understand why I'm talking to a camera and not a room full of people or drunks or whatever. I understand this. I understand that it's necessary. But this will never be an appropriate, what did I write? Replacement for being there live. Hopefully, this is the first and only time I will ever do this. Because having people stand in front of you and giving you like instant feedback is important. For example, let's say you're in a band and you play a show and everyone thinks your band sucks. Now, as a band, you instantly have feedback. You know that your audience is a shit-eating pack of Neanderthals with zero understanding of what you're trying to express. And at the same time, as a member, as an audience member, you know instantly that the band that's screaming in front of you is shit, and you can prove it because you're there live experiencing their shittiness. I can handle a bad audience, and I have, but no audience at all. This is truly abstract. But I can. Okay, I can handle a bad audience. No audience is not so easy. But a bad audience, for example, I just want to give you one example so that you know what I'm comparing this situation to. A long time ago, I've been doing readings forever, since the 90s. And I read in a town called Delitzsch, and Delitzsch is next to Leipzig. And I went there, gute Dinge, and I read. What I did not know is that the young people in Delitzsch, they had only learned Russian in school. So they literally did not understand what the hell I was talking about. And that's it. I found that out later. And that's obscure, but not as obscure as this. Right now. And I wanted to say that you can observe life through a camera, but you cannot live it. So I hope that I'll never do this again. And one last thing, and then I'll start. What I'm not supposed to talk about is that I can see you too. Put some pants on.
Speaking of.
Yes, by the way.
Speaking of, Roger wants to know what underwear you're wearing.
Excuse me, sir?
Roger wants to know what underwear you're wearing.
Roger knows what underwear. Anyway.
I knew that.
So now, I wanted to get that out of the way. Now I'm going to read some stories. And the first story, I think, is relevant because it happened in Kaiserslautern when I first got to Germany. Good luck.
Good luck.
The following conversation took place in Kaiserslautern sometime in the early 80s. Yep, I've been here longer than you. And it goes like this. Are you a skinhead? And was the question that someone asked me, and I said, yep, I am. Now, yep, it's just one in a long list of really dumb things I've said in my life. Not the dumbest, but pretty fucking stupid. I think that the dumbest thing that I've ever said was, sure, I think I'll join the army. And I did. I signed the papers when I was 17. And a year later, I was a soldier stationed in Denver, just a few days short of flying to Germany. Now, of course, I didn't know what I was doing at the time because I was 18. And I'm sorry, I don't want to insult any 18-year-olds, but you don't know what the fuck you're doing. I didn't know what I was doing, but by that time it was too late. I was supposed to fly to Frankfurt on the 18th of December. Exactly the same day that Black Flag was supposed to play in Denver, where I lived. So, yeah, I'm not doing this well. So I missed my flight. Now, this is a true story, by the way, because most of the time I just lie. But this one is true. Now, if you're not familiar with American military terminology, there's a term called AWOL, which means absent without leave, which basically means that you're not where you're supposed to be. For example, at a punk rock concert and not on a plane flying to Germany. It's a big no-no. The American military or any military doesn't really, they don't like that. So in some cases it costs a lot of money, and in extreme cases they'll throw you in jail. And if you go AWOL, if you're absent without leave in a combat situation, and God knows America has enough of those, that's called desertion. And the punishment for that depends on who your boss is. It's grim stuff. But I've never regretted doing it. Not even after discovering years later that it will scar my so-called permanent record. Joining the Army, at least at that time, it was a lot like any other business transaction. You sign a contract placing yourself at the mercy of the government for a certain length of time. And in my case, it was 4 years. I signed a 4-year contract. And at the end of that time, you receive a document stating that you have fulfilled the contract and you are free to go. At least that's the way it used to be. Now, I still have that document. I still have the document. And at the bottom, hidden under some computer-generated camouflage, stand the words, "Did not show up for duty because of Black Flag concert." So like I said, I'm kind of proud of that. It doesn't bother me at all. Black Flag. I'm sure I don't have to tell you who Black Flag is, so I won't do it. But if you check your internet, there are hundreds or thousands of photos from Black Flag at the time. Angry young men with no hair, even less than I have, with no hair. They were like a tank rolling over civilians in Tiananmen Square. They were merciless, savage, not polite, and pretty much pissed off at everything and everybody. And they were also bald, at least at that time. They all shaved their heads just because, fuck everything. But this is the Black Flag that I went AWOL for. So, to recap, with no prior knowledge of skinheads, including all subgroups, Redskins, Nazi skins, Oi skins, Sharp skins, skins for Jesus, check your internet, it's true. There are skinheads that stomp on people for Jesus. I understand that not every skinhead is the same thing, but I did not understand it at the time. With no understanding, with no prior knowledge of skinheads and skinhead culture, plus the fact that at that time I had never seen one in the wild, combined with the Black Flag show where bald men screamed spastically out against all the world's problems, and according to Black Flag, all the world's problems are 2 words: the cops. My answer to the question, "Are you a skinhead?" was still pretty fucking dumb. To my defense, I honestly thought, this conversation happened. I was in Germany, here in Kaiserslautern. I had been here for about, a half year, or almost between a half and a year. And I honestly thought that skinheads were just punks with no hair. And my internal thoughts was like, okay, we're all in this together. If that's the way punks rocked in Germany, then so be it. I'm fine with this. Here's a tip. Never attach yourself to a subculture that you don't understand. Because for months or even years later, after my I was still introduced to people. This is Lee, the tiny skinhead. And I continue to say, yep, because I am eternally stupid until I have a good reason to stop doing that. And my reason is there's a lot of information at once, and I'm not nervous. My reason was a British punk band called the Anti-Nowhere League. It'll all come together at the end. I think they had one hit called The Streets of London, but the rest was very forgettable, like most British punk bands. I'm just kidding. But to give you an idea of what the Anti-Nowhere League were all about, they have song lyrics printed on their webpage. So these are lyrics from the Anti-Nowhere League. For example, I've been here, I've been there, I've been every fucking where. So what? So what? I've sucked sweets, and I don't know what that is. I've sucked rock. I don't know what that is. I even sucked an old man's cock. Whatever. So what? So what? I've drunk that. I've drunk this. I even drank a pint of piss. So what? So what? That's one song. Here's the next song. Minute 30. We hate the dogs. You know, I used to be like more of a cat person, but now I really don't like any animals, including you. But we hate the dogs. We hate the man. We hate things we don't understand, which is something that I have thought, but I have never said in public. And finally, this is the last example of Anti-Nowhere League song lyrics. Your tits are big, but your brains are small. Sometimes I wonder if you have brains at all. Woman, go fuck yourself. Brilliant, right? It's good stuff, to be sure. And for a short time, I told anyone that listened, just to provoke them, I said, hey, I'm talking about strangers that I don't know. Hey, I sucked an old man's cock, so what? Now, at the time, like I said, this was 1982. At the time, I was singing in a band from Kaiserslautern called the Walter-Elf. And I'm not sure, but I think the band name has something to do with soccer. But as far as I knew at the time, it could have just as easily been so the Walter-Elf could have easily just as easily have been a code name for like buying drugs. Hey, I need Walter. Oh yeah? How many? Elf. So my story is this. The Walter-Elf, we were supposed to play in front of the Anti-Nowhere League in a place called Zak, or the Zak, I'm not sure, in Wiesbaden. And it was one of the first times that we had supported a band with a fan base larger than their girlfriends and family, so we were pretty excited. We arrived in Wiesbaden, and we made a stop at the hotel where the Anti-Nowhere League were staying. Now, I recognized the singer. He was hanging out of a window, and he was drinking beer, so I yelled up to him. I said, hey, we're the Walter 11, and we're supporting you tonight. Which cock did you suck anyway? Yeah. Now, you have to understand, all of the song lyrics were in German, and I did not speak German at the time, so I didn't really understand what the fuck we were singing about, but I did understand what the singer from the Anti-Nowhere League told me. Piss off, you wanker. Anyway, we drove over to Zak, and we started doing what support bands do. We waited. And as we waited, we were amazed at the number of beer cases that can be stacked on top of each other. In every corner of the venue, beer towers of Babylon, they reach 2, 3, 4, 18 meters into the sky. You can stack beer cases. You can stack them high. And as we were waiting, I observed the people that we were going to play for, and I was personally surprised by the number of bald-headed punk rockers in the audience. And it was almost a perfect moment for me at that point. I thought, here I am. I'm going to play for about 350 Black Flag fans. Then I'm going to party with the Anti-Nowhere League. This is what I was born to do. We did a short line check, and then it was we had to play. So Beppo, hi Beppo, you better be watching, you motherfucker. Beppo, the band boss, he turned to the audience and he said, "Good evening, guten Abend. Wir sind die Walter Elf aus Kaiserslautern." I have learned a lot since I've been living in Germany, which is a decision that I do not regret, by the way. I've learned a lot about football. I understand upsides. Thank you. Yes. Not really, but everything. It took about 20 years, but I think I get it. At the time, however, I did not know that telling 350 skinheads from Frankfurt, including members of the Böse Uncles, yes, true story, Adler Front. Anyway, that you're a fan of the FCK, I didn't understand that was slightly suicidal. So believe it or not, I didn't understand that I was in danger at that moment. We started playing, and the rest happened very quickly. They threw beer at us, which I thought, hey, punk rock, right on. And I threw my beer back at them. Now, the early Walter Elf songs, in the chorus, there's lots of ohs, lots of ohs and ahs, everything. And it's like that because Beppo was too lazy to write real text. But anyway, so I took every possible chance to change the O's into oys and everything. And I said, oi, 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 motherfuckers, here, have some more beer. And then I dumped another plastic cup of Karlskrona on another skinhead. And this is true. Now, I remember, I noticed that people were fighting in the venue, in the hall. And I remember thinking, why is everyone so angry? When the first bottle thrown from the audience, it exploded right next to our drummer, to the drum set. And the next bottle hit our guitar player, fortunately, his name's Frank, fortunately on his guitar. And the next one barely missed me. So I decided to stop doing the oi, oi, oi thing, but it was too late. It's sehr schnell eskaliert. It happened all very quickly. It went from a show to a fucking riot. Everything was a fight. Mountains of beer cases were pushed over so that everyone had enough bottles to throw. There was blood on the floor, broken glass in the air, and yes, people were getting hurt. It reminded me of a Black Flag show that I went AWOL for. But it was truly crass, and to be honest, I haven't experienced that kind of shit since then. But we left the stage. We decided that it was too much to continue on. And as I was trying to escape, some random skinhead asked me, where you come from? And I lied to him because I enjoy lying. And I said, I come from Texas. And he said, Texas? I said, yep. And he said, this is true, he said, I'm going to fucking kill you. So, and I thought, well, Texas is, I'm not a fan either. But But fortunately, at that moment, I was grabbed by the arm from Beppo. And Beppo told to me, I've been in Germany much too long. Yeah. I speak no language. Beppo said to me, we have to leave right now. And we did, but by this time, the violence, the riot, had spread from inside the club to outside of the club. And as I said, this is all basically true. What I saw and what is the God's truth was that the second guitar player, Joe, he left the club with his guitar in his hand, and he was trying to run away, and he was attacked by two skinheads. Have you ever seen two skinheads get beaten up by a guitar? Everything. It was inspiring. It just said, shit. He took his guitar and it's like, bam, bam, and it was lovely. That was cool. But as we ran through the riot trying to escape, I could see bleeding little punkers being stomped on by huge Mike Tyson-like men with no hair. And that's when I had what's called a moment of clarity. It took a riot for me to understand that I'm not a skinhead. And these people are not Black Flag fans. I finally understood the difference between punks and skins. And let me be very clear. I do understand. I'm going to drink beer. I do understand that not every skinhead is the same. And not every skinhead is a Nazi skinhead. I get it. So don't send me evil mail or anything like that. But these people were. And with that understanding came panic in real time. I thought, shit, they really want to kill us. This is not cool. This is not like dancing. This is dangerous. So I ran. And I ran as fast as I could to get as far away as possible from Sak. And to this day, I still don't truly understand why I didn't get hurt. When I finally stopped running, I sat down on the ground and I checked myself for injuries, and there was not a scratch on my dumb little body. So I sat and I watched the rest of the riot unfold. By now, something was on fire, and the blue lights of about 20 cop cars had lit up the night. I found the rest of the Walter Elf. They were also uninjured, which is real. There is a God, because they were gunning for us. We were the ones they wanted to hurt. They did not. I found them. We got on our bus and we drove the fuck home. Only later did I learn that the Anti-Nowhere League, they actually played their show. Either they failed to recognize that they were playing exclusively for Nazi fuck skinheads, or they didn't care. Either way, the Anti-Nowhere League remain, in my mind at least, cocksuckers. Fuck those people. And this is dangerous because what I didn't know when I wrote this is that the Anti-Nowhere League, they didn't break up or they got back together, so come doch, motherfuckers. Anyway, we got on our bus and we drove home. 2 days later, this happened when I was in the Army, by the way. 2 days later, I was back at work as a soldier, protecting you from communism. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I walked into the office where I worked just to find Frau Meier. It was a German lady that worked with us. She was reading her daily Bildzeitung. And the front page headline was, Punk-Rock riot in Wiesbaden. Many dead, more injured. And Frau Meier, she asked me, she said, well, Hollis, did you hear about this? And I said, heard about it. I started it. the end of that. The end of the first. You're very... Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was talking to Harry, the man that is part owner of the Benderhof, right? Or the owner, the boss. I was talking to the boss earlier, and I told him that everything that I have written was written back before we were not allowed to do anything. So it all seems kind of like nostalgia to me right now. I work in a bar. I bartend in a bar called Karate Klub Meier. And I haven't given anyone house for boat for a long time. So I really hope that we can meet soon. But this is a bartending story. This actually happened about 3 or 4 years ago. And it actually has a title. It's called 5 o'clock Saturday Morning. Hello. Hi. It was 5 o'clock on Saturday morning, and I was working with a new guy that he had just started working in the karate club about 2 weeks ago. His name is Fabio. And Fabio and we were trying to close the karate club down. Closing down a bar involves everything that you can probably imagine. Everything. You clean the tables, put the bar stools on the tables, you fill up the refrigerator, you ask the last guest to leave, but you ask them friendly, and you spray the entire place down with industrial cleaner, you count the money, and you get the fuck out. Now, Fabio, as I said, new guy, he did not know that it's okay to say, no, we're closed, to packs of drunken teenagers at 5 in the morning. So I was in the back of the club, and I was doing whatever. I was not taking drugs. No, but I was getting beer to bring up and fill up the refrigerator. As I returned from the back room with a case of beer, I was slightly surprised to find about 12 to 15 drunken teenagers camped out directly in the middle of the karate club. All of those bar stools that I had put on tables were not on tables anymore. And all of those ashtrays that I had cleaned 5 minutes ago were not fucking clean anymore. As a general rule, if you walk into any bar or restaurant and you see chairs on tables, then just turn around and walk back out, because either they're trying to close, yes, you're welcome. Either they're trying to close or they are closed. Seriously, it's not fucking rocket science. Yes, baby. So I looked at Fabio like this. Why? What are you doing? What are you doing? Everything. And then after staring evilly at Fabio, I said the first thing that I could think of, I said, no, we're closed. But this particular group of young people, they were obvious victims of bad parenting because they refused to respect the authority that I held over them. They ignored me. And that's hard to take in any situation, but especially in this one. So I stared at Fabio a little bit, you dumb son of a bitch. And then, using my advanced bartending skills, I scanned the teenagers looking for their leader. And I found him, because if you got the eye for it, you can see it. I found him at table 2, blonde man, at the most 20 years old, probably younger. He looked like a bitch to me, but I knew that he was the bitch I'd have to talk to. So I walked to him, and I said, listen, we're closing. Take your gang and leave. And he said, we'll leave after we finished our drinks. Uh-huh. And only then did I notice that they all had drinks. And I stared at Fabio. The fuck? And I said, no, you'll leave now. Take the drinks with you, yeah, but you have to leave now. And then I stared at Fabio. And as I was staring at my new young colleague. The blonde guy, he said very loudly, "Hey, look at me when I'm talking to you." Oh, really? Yeah, he really did. He really did. It was, come on. I stopped staring at Fabio, and I turned back around to the bitch, and I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Look at me when I'm talking to you." And I almost laughed, because look at me when I'm talking to you, that's something that parents tell their children, teachers, maybe their students, prison guards talking to prisoners. But what this bitch, the person that this guy was talking to, was at that time 50 years old. Now I'm slightly even more older, but he was talking to me. So I did what he said, and I looked at him hard. Yeah, it was fun. For a few seconds, there was a pretty cool, deadly silence. And then I said, calmly, I said, "If bar stools are on the tables, the bar is closed. Didn't your parents teach you anything?" And he said, "What did you say about my parents?" But before I could explain my theory about his shitty parents to him, one of his friends, yelled out, "Leave us alone." I turned around and I saw I saw a sad-looking young man that I instantly recognized as the bitch's first lieutenant. And I said, and after he screamed at me, I screamed at him, said, "Shut your fucking mouth or I'll set your face on fire." Angry grumbling rumbled through the pack. I turned back around to the bitch and I stared at him some more. But he was the alpha male in this situation. He was the leader of the pack of teenagers and everything. And to keep his alpha male status, I guess he thought that he had to stay, because to leave right now would disappoint the pack and threaten his leadership. So he stared back at me. There's a lot of staring in this story. But of course he was wrong, because in this situation at 5 on Saturday morning, I was the alpha male. It's part of the job. And I didn't want to look weak in front of the new guy, Fabio, so I said, "1 second." And I left and I went back to the back room. And what many people do not know about Karate Club is that we have a small mini blowtorch. And Schweißbrenner. I did. We have a small blowtorch in the back room. So I went back, I got it, I lit it, and I adjusted the flame to a fine blue needle. And then I returned to the pack, and I said, "Hey, you fat ass, you're first. You're first." Wait, blowtorch. "First you, then your boss, and then anyone else left after that." And the pack, recognizing a threat from an obviously crazy man with a blowtorch, they all stood up quickly. And I walked fast to table 2 to the blonde bitch. And I said, "You bitch, look at me when I'm talking to you. I'll tell you what I said about your fucking parents. You see, my theory is that they did not raise you right. They didn't teach you manners or common courtesy. Your parents are shitbags, and that's why you're a shitbag." I miss bartending. And it worked. It actually works. The story ends quickly. You have to show. The story ends quickly. It's fun to watch 15 people walking backwards at the same time. They fall and trip and they hurt themselves. There's blood everywhere. It's really kind of cool. So finally, after the last of those people, they staggered out of the Karate Club. I turned off the blowtorch, and I threw my keys to Fabio, and I said, "Fabio, brother, would you please lock the fucking door?" He did, and we closed the place down, and then we got the fuck out. The end. Yeah, you're very nice.
Lee, you still haven't anything to drink. You're good. You're good. You're good. You have anything? You have anything you need?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Okay, moving on. Okay, I'm going to read something in German. Mom, I'm sorry, I'm going to read something in German right now. But the gist of the story is that the German language is practically impossible to speak, and I don't know why the fuck I'm here, but here we are. I love you. Okay, anyway, this is called, it has an English title. It's called I Hate Your Language. Yeah. I'm hitting long here. Hi, wir kennen uns nicht. Mein Name ist Lee Hollis. Und Deutsch ist nicht meine Muttersprache. Here, the fucking thing is, many people come to me and they say, Lee, you in Deutschland live long till, why you not German speak? Und ich antworte auf Deutsch. Ja, ich kann Deutsch sprechen, das ist nicht das Beste, aber eigentlich habe ich das alles unter Kontrolle. But Lee, why? Why you know German speak? Ich bin hier in Deutschland länger, als ich in Amerika war. My decision to stay here, das habe ich nie bereut. So, especially now. But actually die ganze Zeit. So. Wie gesagt, auf Deutsch. Weil ich trotzig bin, glaube ich immer noch, dass meine Entscheidung richtig war. Und das war sie auch. Es gibt nur ein Problem. Deutsch. Ich meine, die Sprache, Deutsch. Ich hasse sie. I really do. Und ich sage euch warum. Warum ich die deutsche Sprache so sehr hasse? Weil die Shit ist. Weil es so anstrengend ist, es auszusprechen. Weil die Grammatik jenseits von irgendwas, das mit Logik zu tun hat, weil sie grob und primitiv ist. Yeah, I'm talking to you. But you're not here to kick my ass or whatever. Die deutsche Sprache hasse ich so sehr wegen obskurer Regeln wie die, der, das Scheiß. Es ist, wenn man genauer hinschaut, eine sexistische Art der Kommunikation. Warum ist ein Tisch männlich und eine Lampe weiblich? No? Weil es immer so war. Klar. Es war immer so. Und I've always imagined, ich habe mir immer vorgestellt, wie das zustande gekommen ist. Und zum Beispiel Hans und Manfred. Yeah, I don't know. Wolfgang, auch ein lovely name. Hans und Manfred sitzen an einem Tisch und trinken Bier. And I am totally behind that. Hey, baby, nothing against beer.
And it's das Bier.
This is good beer. Anyway. Die sitzen am Tisch, trinken Bier. Und irgendwann sagt Hans, Manfred, dieser Tisch ist ein Mann. Und Manfreds Antwort, yes, of course, Hans. Ja, Manfred, ein Tisch ist männlich und weißt du was? Was? No. Ein Lamp ist weiblich. No. Doch. Yeah, doch. Eine Lampe ist weiblich. Aber warum? Warum hat ein Stück Möbel überhaupt ein Geschlecht? Was soll denn das? Und wer denkt sich solche Regeln aus? Eine besoffene Hans und Manfred offensichtlich. Aber there's more. Es gibt mehr. Dialekt. Now, switching back to English, just to confuse you. In America, of course, we have different dialects too. From Boston, way up north, next to New York, Boston. I can't do a Boston accent, but I'm sure it's different from an Alabama accent where I come from, and we talk like this all the time. And then you can also go way out west where cool surfers say things that only other cool surfers understand. Aber im Ernst, 174 Worte für Kartoffeln allein in Saarland. Wirklich, 174 Worte für Kartoffeln. That shit's not my fault. Everything else is, but not that. So, wo ich dabei bin, eure Muttersprache richtig runterzumachen, German words are too long. German words are too long. Zum Beispiel, and this habe ich von the internet. I can't do it. Donaudampf, Schifffahrts-, Elektrizitäts-, Hauptbetrieb, Werk, Bauunternehmen, Gesellschaft. Das ist ein German word. Das ist 79 Buchstaben. Now, I know that this word is not used anymore, but that's, Wikipedia. What's the longest German word ever? Everything. Und? Yes, ma'am, what? Yeah. Und Rindfleisch-Etikettierungs-, Überwachungs-, Aufgabenübertragungsgesetz. Das sind 63 Buchstaben. Now, es ist umstritten, ob jemand diese Worte jemals live ausgesprochen hat. Manche Leute sagen, das sind keine Worte, sondern Erziehungsmethoden für Kinder. Ist ein Kartoffel oder whatever the fuck they're called. Oder die Rindfleisch-Etikettierungs-, Überwachungs-, Donau-, Schiffsfahrt-, Elektrizität Monster will get you. Die längste Wort in English, by the way, es fängt mit Titan an. It's basically a word for a chemical. It starts with Titan and it ends with Isolin. Und es beinhaltet stolze 189 Buchstaben und ist sometimes called the longest word in any language ever. So, wie gesagt, laut Wikipedia zumindest. Ich sage euch was. Es ist kein Wunder, dass Deutschland in der Vergangenheit so viele Probleme mit der Nachbarschaft hatte. Niemand versteht euch. Es ist wissenschaftlich bewiesen, dass Deutsch zu lernen schwieriger ist, als vom Heroin runterzukommen. Bewiesen. Check your fucking Wikipedia. Ich kämpfe seit über 30 Jahren mit eurer Sprache und habe seit 29 Jahren die Nase voll von S oder sie oder das oder what the fuck ever. So, warum? If I hate your language so much, then why do I continue to live here where I'm forced to speak it? Das ist eine gute Frage. Ich hätte es nicht geplant, weil ich plane selten Sachen. It's okay.
Ja.
Hey, I'm living on the edge, baby. I live on the edge. Aber ich fühle mich hier zu Hause. Und ich habe euch gern. Wisst ihr, was die anderen Länder über euch sagen? Das stimmt gar nicht. You guys are cool. And I'm happy and thankful to be here. Wie gesagt, ich bin hier länger, als ich in Amerika war. Und darum werde ich weiterhin mit eurer Sprache kämpfen. Und vielleicht irgendwann, mit Sicherheit, I'll learn all the words for potato. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. It's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. The word meltdown in public is thrown a lot around these days. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just looking for what I'm supposed to read. How much time do we have? What? No, please tell me. Come on, Hollis. It's enough. Anyway.
No, you're good to go. You have plenty of time.
Shut up. I'm sorry I asked. God
Yeah.
damn it. Ah! My grandfather believed in professional wrestling. It's true. He's one of my favorite family members, except for Mom. He believed in professional wrestling, and he was my mother's father. And for hundreds of years, he was a truck driver. He had a huge red truck that he would carry dirt or rocks or money with. I don't really know what he transported, but I do remember the truck. And I remember my grandfather. He passed about 10 years ago, but I was his favorite grandchild because, and he was my favorite grandfather. So I remember visiting him with my mom when I was like 5 or so, and drive to grandfather's, and I would run over to him and I would scream, "Ah! Grandpa! Ah! Give me some money. Let's go sit in the truck." And being the gentleman that he was, he would laugh and he would steal my nose. "Got your nose, you little criminal." And then we would go sit once again inside of his truck. And once again, he would show me how all 18 gears worked. And once again, I was fascinated. And it was just, in a world full of shit, it was a positive moment that I have not forgotten. So we're sitting in his truck, and I would say, "Grandpa, you got a cigarette?" And then we would smoke. We would smoke, and we would just stare out the window and just enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy being together. Things only turned ugly when we talked about professional wrestling. And it was wonderful. You have to, at this time, I don't know what year it was when I was 5, but it was in the 50s. It was a long time ago. It was wonderful. My grandfather would tell me about how Suicide Sam got hit in the head with a Klappstuhl again. Or how Cherokee Joe just could not stop bleeding at the chain death match they had at the high school last Tuesday. Now, I was a fan of death match even at the tender age of 5, but that's a different story. Our conversation turned serious when the name Ric Flair was mentioned. Now, Mr. Flair was a huge steak of a man with long bleached blonde hair and a mouth built for shit talking. Professional wrestling history tells us that in this sport, there's a good guy and a bad guy. Rick was a bad guy, of course, and he was one of the first people to use the folding chair or the Klappstuhl technique on his enemies.
Technique.
In fact, he was famous for walking around with a Klappstuhl under his arm that he would use on anybody that did not believe that he was a natural blonde. He would scream out, they would say, "Rick, pretty boy Flair does not color his hair." And then he would just like, bam, whack them at women, children, he didn't care. Rick was a mean guy and literally a professional bad guy. Everyone hated him, but nobody more than my grandfather and I. To understand the level of hatred I'm talking about, you have to understand my grandfather. He's not like me. Me be nervous and angry all the time about something, whatever, ready to kill at any moment, yes. But my grandfather was just a friendly old man, and possibly one of the truly nice people that I've ever met. But he had no good words for Ric Flair. And we're sitting in his truck, and he'd say, "I'd like to tie him to the back of the truck and drag him through town for an hour or so." And I would say, yeah, but instead of tying him with rope, we could use his natural blonde hair. Years later, I think at that time I was about 10 or 11, my family moved to North Carolina into a small rented house right across the street from Ric Flair. It's true. Yeah, I know you wouldn't. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. It's not true. Yeah, fuck you. No, it was. I forget what the exact name of, but it's called the suburbs. We lived in the suburbs, and there was one group of houses over here. They were for lower middle class families, and then across the street was for upper class people with money. But it was the same group of houses. So I'm sitting in a car with my mother when a red Camaro containing a head with hair so blonde that it hurt my eyes, it just screamed out of the driveway right in front of us and whoa, right down the road. And I turned to my mother and I said, Mom, wasn't that Ric Flair? And she said, I think so. Lord, please don't tell your grandfather when he visits next week. You know how he feels about Rick. And I said, sure. I said, sure, Ma, of course. I won't tell him next week. As I dialed my grandfather's phone number that evening, I thought, I'll tell him today. And I called and he answered, hello? He had an excellent old man voice. I said, Grandpa, it's me, your favorite living relative, the one that gets the money when you die. And he said, Lee, you little criminal, got your nose. And I said, stop telling that joke. It's not funny, you fool. And I said, we have important plans to make. Could you bring a couple of folding chairs with you when you come next week? And he said, well, anything from my favorite little criminal. A week later, my grandfather arrived. And I said, did you bring the chairs with you? He did. Oops. My grandfather brought 45 folding chairs with him. And I said, don't you think one or two would have been enough? And he said, the public execution of Ric Flair needs an audience. To which I answered, okay, fine. Fine. So we drove the chairs over to in front of Rick's place in my grandfather's truck. After checking to make sure that Rick's Camaro was not parked in front of his house, we unloaded the chairs onto his front yard, and then we started selling tickets. And my father said through a small megaphone, only $2. Shit. Only $2, ladies and gentlemen. $2 for a one-time chance to take part in the Ric Flair folding chair, blonde hair team deathmatch. Yeah. It's all true. Rick's on one team and we're all on the other. So it came to pass that within 1 hour, we had a small carnival of aggressive, bloodthirsty Ric Flair haters on our hands. The atmosphere was savage and a little surreal, to tell the truth, which, as I've said, this is a true story. One part public execution, one part 4th of July Day celebration, and for some of the kids, I'm sure it seemed like Christmas time. A friendly ice cream man came and sold friendly ice cream. A couple of hippies were juggling little plastic Ric Flair heads. A happy clown was handing out small wooden baseball bats to some of the younger members of the mob. And even the cops came by to show their support. And one cop, he got out and he saw what was happening. And he came over and he said, that Flair boy, he hit my wife with a chair exactly like the ones you got there. That pissed me off. The only one that's going to hit my wife is me. You give him what he's got coming. So with the government officially on our side, the only thing left to do was to wait for Rick to come home. And he didn't make us wait long. You could hear the music from his Camaro before you heard the car. Rick was driving fast, So the low, mean rumble of one of the 70s favorite muscle cars quickly blended in with the very loud version of Iron Butterfly's In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. It's a good drum solo. Anyway, if you're not familiar with the song, it lasts like 4 or 5 days, including the drum solo, which takes up about a day and a half. It's a long, so they had time back then. Rick stopped his car in the middle of the drum solo, which further enraged many people in the mob, because that's like the best part. And he got out, and with a look of true amazement on his face, under all of that stinking blonde hair, he walked over, he stared, and then he said, "What?" My grandfather, into his megaphone, "Time to pay the ferryman, Rick." And Rick said, "Oh, what? Really? What? What the fuck are you freaks doing on my front yard? Are you all retarded? This is private fucking property." And my grandfather said, "You're the bad guy, Rick. The chosen one. You're the reason why Cherokee Joe has started table dancing." I don't know. I didn't write this. Anyway. And Rick said, "What?" And my grandfather said, "Your constant use of the word 'what' is starting to bore us, Flair." And Rick said, wait a minute. I just came from dinner with Cherokee Joe. And the only thing he did on that table was eat." And my grandfather said, "What?" A voice came from the back of the crowd. "Who cares? Let's just fucking kill him." Followed by several cries of, "Hell yeah, let's fucking kill him. Fuck, kill him." And I said, "Yeah." Yep. You did it better. But Rick was cool. Before I continue, now I wrote this a long time ago. I have no problems with professional wrestling. I understand that that a lot of people enjoy it. The only problem I have with it is that people thinking that it's truly a sport, because it is not. In sports, you don't choose the winner and loser unless you got a lot of money. You don't really choose the winner and loser before the game starts. So that's my basic problem with professional wrestling. So Rick, after everyone wanted to kill him, he said, "You dumb bastards don't actually believe all that shit on TV, do you? Professional wrestling isn't a sport, it's a show. It's entertainment for idiots." Hi, I'm not making any friends here. I know. And he said, and he continued to rage, and he said, "I've got 3 daughters on the edge of puberty sitting in the living room that you are currently barricading. I've got a pregnant wife waiting for chocolate ice cream and sour pickles in the back, and I am not the goddamn bad guy." A short silence followed as some of the fans in the crowd struggled with the question, why is professional wrestling not a sport? While the rest tried to find the answer to, well, if Ric Flair isn't the bad guy, then who is? Some people started looking suspiciously at my grandfather. But before I could panic, the law, that cop from Forehand, he spoke, walked up and he said, "Now, wait a minute, everybody. You just calm down. Now, I personally find it hard to believe that professional wrestling is not real, but I do have a question for Rick." And he turned to Rick and he said, "Rick, did you hit my woman with one of those chairs there?" And only then, I think Rick started to understand that we really wanted to kill him. But there was fear in his eyes when he answered, and he said, "Yeah, I did. What you gonna do about it?" And my grandfather, "Time to die, Flair. It's a death match, and you have chosen slow and painful." And the end of this story is that 45 people of different ages, colors, shapes, and sizes beat Rick Pretty Boy Flair to death in the hour that followed. And somewhere between his weak screams for mercy and the discovery that his hair was neither natural nor bleach blonde, because Rick wore a wig, peruca, I remember thinking that being the bad guy, it isn't always a choice you make. Rather, it's something that's forced on you. Nobody wants to be bad, but everybody is. And it's a lesson that Rick has learned and taken with him to the other side, where good guys always win. The end. Yeah. Thank you very much. I am so goddamn thankful that I am not actually sitting here alone, because otherwise this would be just fucking freaky. My plan right now is to read one last story and then consider this done, because I am the picture of self-control right now. We don't know each other really, and you certainly don't fucking know me. But if I just reacted the way I would normally, the way I want to react, I'd just take my clothes off and set everything on fire. But I have self-control. And I thank you for listening. This is it, and then it's called God Told Me to Come Here. And this is one of those true stories, one of those bartending stories. I was working on a Sunday night in Karate Klub Meier, and a guy walked in, and he introduced himself as Andreas from Saarlouis. And I was very close to, the end. I was very close to closing, but he walked in at the last minute, and he was not drunk or aggressive or strange in any way that you could actually see. And when he sat down at the bar, he smiled a very nice smile. And I smiled back. And I said, no, he said, I am Andreas from Saarlouis. And God told me to get in my car and drive here tonight. And that's true. In the hour that followed, we had a pleasant conversation about the nature of religious belief and whether God was a dude or a chick. And he drank panache, which is, I know you know, but my mother does not know. Hi, Mom. Sorry for the cursing. Beer with lemonade or like that. Panache is not to be confused with Weizen beer with banana juice, or what I call a Satan shake. Because Weizen beer with banana sauce, fuck you. Okay. Order that in my ass. Anyway, question was, is God a man or a woman? And I asked him, I said, well, are you more afraid of men or women? And he thought about it for a moment, and then we both said at the same time, God's a woman. Yep, high five. Remember high five? You don't. Or your children will forget it. Oh, it's so sad. So after he drank his second panache, he asked to pay, and I let him. And I said, so, and Andreas from Saarlouis, did God really tell you to drive here tonight? And he said, he did. And I said, well, you seem like a nice man, but you understand that your story sounds, and please excuse me, fucking crazy. And he said, I do. And I said, okay, does God talk to you often? And he said, God talks to everyone that listens, which is either absolutely true or not at all. I'm not an expert. Andreas from Saarlouis, he got up to leave, and as we shook hands, which we'll never do again, I asked him mostly as a parting joke, but I was also interested in how he would answer. I said, Andreas, are you an angel? I did, and he never stopped smiling. But he did say, he said, now I know why I came and why I'll be back. And then he left. And the fact is, life is interesting sometimes if you pay attention. And fucking crazy isn't always bad. Thank you very much. This has been a weird experience. And I hope it never happens again. But thank you. Oh yeah, bye.
Well, thank you so much, Lee. This has been very. Well, it's. You might take a seat. You might take a seat. Yeah. Oh no, you don't need to. You don't need to. We're still online, and there's 150 and more, 150 plus people watching you. And I think if you have one last, like, if you want to do one more, you could. There's like people are asking for it.
Danke, Sven.
And
I do not.
That's okay, and we're fine with that. I mean, we're fine with that. We should have another drink, and keep things private.
I understand.
But we'd love to say thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thank you, sir.
We've been very honored to have you here, and I'm pretty sure that all the people out there. I mean, there's like thumbs flying on Facebook.
Thank you for the thumbs.
People are really jealous out there, and we are really happy. And it was our big pleasure to have you here tonight. I'm going to do this in German now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
Besides all the comments that flew in, you're the greatest. We had such a lovely time. We love you so much. Klappstuhltechnik made my day. I once had a Weizenzapft by you. Even with the 2 languages. There is one thing I'd love to know. Did you ever pour a Weizen with cherry juice? Or even cherry mixed with banana juice?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
And isn't that crazy?
Scarred me for the rest of my life.
I believe. It's on that list.
I actually did the Banana Weizen thing. so, ich gehe davon aus, dass der Karate Club nie wieder aufmachen wird. So I can say whatever the fuck I want, but the Banana Weizen is just so alien to me. And I actually drank one time because someone forced me to. Well, actually, it was at a show, whatever, in egal wo, and the guy knew that I was not a fan of Banana Weizen, and he ordered one specifically, deswegen, and he said, "Here, drink." And I said, "Okay," because he was huge. And he was a large man.
And you didn't have a blowtorch with you.
Well, I left my blowtorch at home. Damn it! But no, and I tested it, and my first thought was, well, shit, I could drink this for breakfast. But that's all. I understand a lot of, I almost understand beer, cola with beer, or cola beer. Not really, but banana juice with fucking anything is just obscure to me. If the Karate Club ever opens again, order what you want. We'll see what happens.
Ja, das ist der Club, wo ihr ihn nochmal sehen könnt, im Karate Klub Meier. Wenn der nochmal aufmacht, dann schaut da mal vorbei. Der ist wirklich ungefähr so groß wie der Teppich, auf dem Lee gerade sitzt. Und man muss auf jeden Fall mal da gewesen sein. Der ist in Saarbrücken, schaut mal vorbei. Wer noch nicht da war, auch sehenswert. Ansonsten sind wir ganz froh, dass der Benderhof morgen auch wieder geöffnet hat. Um 13 Uhr, auch der Biergarten ist für euch da und natürlich mit dem ganzen Reglement, das derzeit dieser Tage überall in der Gastro herrscht, also Abstand und ihr wisst schon, nicht alle an einen Tisch und so. Nichtsdestotrotz möchte ich mal ein großes Dankeschön sagen im Namen des Stream-Teams an alle, die hier so fleißig gespendet haben in den letzten Wochen.
Yeah!
Ihr habt damit für die Künstler, für den Benderhof sozusagen diese traurige Zeit halbwegs überbrücken können. Das ist leider, also wir hören jetzt auf mit dem Stream, deswegen sage ich das. Aber so ein halber Kneipenbetrieb geht ja jetzt wieder weiter. Wir tun alles, dass das für euch ein Highlight ist, hierher zu kommen. Wir wissen, Ausgehen war früher anders und wir hoffen, dass es so agreeable, um jetzt mal noch irgendwie so anders zu kommen, für euch sein wird. Das ist natürlich eingeschränkt, aber kommt vorbei und wascht euch die Hände und wir heißen euch herzlich willkommen hier im Benderhof und die Genossenschaft dankt euch für diese Tage des Streams. Wir sind auch froh, wieder in diese neue Normalität zurückzukehren. Viele Künstler, DJs, Menschen, die sich hier in dieser langen Reihe noch eigentlich gerne gesehen hätten, auf dieser wahnsinnigen Bühne, die wir bereitstellen. Oh mein Gott! Wir müssen euch vertrösten auf die Tage, wo man das wieder live machen kann. Es tut uns leid, aber da ist einfach das Überleben der Kneipe so ein bisschen wichtiger. Und letztlich geben wir euch trotzdem die Chance, bei uns, nein, nicht die Chance, das ist Quatsch, aber die Möglichkeit, dass ihr bei uns auftreten könnt. Kommt rein und wir behalten euch auf jeden Fall auf dem Schirm für die Tage, wo es wieder normal sein wird. Wir warten alle auf weitere Lockerungen, aber ihr wisst alle, diese Lockerungen kommen nur, wenn das mit wenigen Lockerungen, so wie es jetzt gerade ist, auch gut funktioniert. Also haltet euch alle dran, Hände waschen und Abstand halten und trotzdem ein Bier trinken. Hier im Benderhof. Macht's gut.
Ciao.
Wow, wow.
Thank you.
Cheers. Huh.